I remember my PE teacher said to me once, when I come back from one of our stupid cross-country outings, just while the word calendar's in my head, he goes, "I don't need a stopwatch for you. I need a bloody calendar." Like, So I stopped in the shop on the way for a quick treat.
Oh, actually, we got turkey first. It's all right. I forgot what order the calendar's in. It's
Shanghai.
turkey, right?
No, it's Shanghai.
Oh, it is. Oh.
Turkey is gone. Turkey wasn't on this calendar, was it?
I'm having a look at the teammate challenge screen. Let's have a look here.
Let's have a go.
You have outqualified me twice.
But you've outraced me once.
Yeah, we both have one fastest lap, and I have 2 podiums to your one. But I mean, that was bad luck more than anything.
Doing good, man.
Well, I'll tell you what. Frankly, I don't care. Maybe it has gone down to intermediate. I don't care. I still think it's reasonably entertaining.
Oh yeah, I think us
Though it
attempting
isn't
to
as fun
drive
as not
anything is
losing.
no. I think us attempting to do anything is going to be quite entertaining.
Okay, so shall we qualify?
Let's do it.
I'm quite impressed that we're managing to get through so many rounds straight away.
Yeah. Might have to call it after this one though. That might be the only thing. Okay.
Maybe, I'm thinking maybe in the next batch I should see if I can run something to record footage from my side and then we can try and edit it together.
That would be a good little side-by-side jobby.
So, so basically it doesn't always need to be you embarrassing yourself on screen.
True say, true say. Oh god.
Oh, I keep forgetting to open my DRS.
Oh, I keep forgetting.
Have you ever used DRS in a race on this game?
Yeah. I did it in Melbourne. Yeah.
I never seem to be within a second of someone in the DRS zone. Never.
Scandal.
Well, no, it's ineptitude, really.
Scandal. Scandal.
So, and the thing is like, I take a good line into the corner. Like, I'll often follow the AI as well, because I just want to be sure that I'm doing things in some vague sense correctly. And they seem to just have so much more grip through the corners than I'm able to get with any setup. You know that feeling where you're about 5 meters behind them and you enter the corner and you're holding line, and then you feel yourself start to drift left and they pull away.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that isn't just me that happens to.
They have really specific setups that, if you're not set up anything like it, will make you look like an absolute idiot on some corners, but then you'll proper eat into them on others. There's a good website that I have found for, or the PS. It would work for this game as well, obviously, but I think it is literally called f1carsetups.co.uk. And it's just different people posting their setups of all the different values, and you can just go in and try them. And some of them mean the setups are really, really fast, but they're not necessarily anything like what the AI are set up with. So if you're racing the AI, you'll catch yourself out constantly because actually their interpretation of a car setup around the track is completely different. And most of these setups actually have like front wing at 11 and rear ring at 1. So there must be some kind of weirdo problem with the setup and things to let you take advantage that badly.
Yeah, I mean, I always run with more downforce than the majority of people. I mean, I don't really compete online in any real sense. Like I've always, in sim racing, I've always run teams rather than drive myself, but I have played this to a modest degree on an online league.
Ah, bollocks.
Terribly as well. And I always run with a lot more downforce than the cars around me. Always have. Oh, I've just seen bits of your car all over the place. I recognise the Telmex logo.
Yeah, that was... Oh, now I'm stuck in reverse. What have I done to myself?
Branding works, people.
Especially if you're Mexican.
I just saw you parked up like one of those billboards you get near a motorway off ramp.
Not for sugardaddy.com, hopefully.
It makes me sad that that's a thing.
What?
Sugardaddy.com.
I know. Uniformdating.com. I've got this woman at work. She's recently split up from her husband, and I was trying to get her onto online dating, and she's not having it. But she's too scared to go out and date properly because she says she's not got the banter for it, although I think she has. So I showed her some dating websites and some of the exceptional pictures that you can be sent. and now she won't go on any at all. Damn it.
You see schoolboy error there, Simon.
I should just set her up with a profile anyway.
Well, on the Vimeo series I did, we had a bit of a discussion about this, about the internet and dating and how it works. And the advice my co-host came up with was one that is pretty much applied by many internet users. And it's the idea that, you find a pretty girl and then you send her a photo of your junk and then somehow romance happens.
Your junk.
Yeah. I was trying to pick a tasteful word.
Now I've just got images of me taking my recycling to her. So, hey, look how green I am. That might not be the best thing to put next to my junk photo. Someone needs to check themselves into a gum clinic.
Yeah, you want to see a doctor. I've somehow managed to set a slower lap time while actually using my curves because I forgot on my first lap.
That's quite impressive. Well, hopefully I'm not going to drive into the back of Hulkenberg down the middle of the straight this time.
Have you not set a flying lap yet?
No.
It's your turn to not qualify.
I think it might be. Because I was just minding my own business down the straight, and then Hulkenberg just stopped on the straight, but on the racing line as well, and I just kind of thought, oh, he'll get out the way. No, smack.
He did that to me in the last round, if you remember.
Yes, he did. Filthy Hulk.
Yeah, he. I think it's something to do with, well, not in the race necessarily, but in qualifying. Like
they're all determined to get out your way, regardless.
Yeah, when they're on their in lap, they'll reach a point where they stop going race pace and just slam on, and then drive really slowly the rest of the lap. And I guess you were just behind him when he decided, oh, I better slow down. I'm going into the pits.
That bag.
I'm glad to see this year there's another young Brit coming onto the grid.
Mr. Chilton.
Yeah, really pleased to see him there. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm really happy to see him there, but I can't for the life of me explain to you why he is.
No, because apparently his brother is much faster.
His brother is much faster, and if you look at this guy's record, I don't believe he's ever won anything.
Oh. How did he manage that then? That's quite impressive.
Yeah, I think it's some shady dealings. Like, not to take anything away from the guy, because like I say, I'm really glad to see him in there and competing. But his dad owns the Marussia feeder team, and that's who he was driving for previously. So I think it was sort of like a wink and a nudge, give Max a seat and I'll groom your drivers.
What kind of grooming, I wonder? Although he is being absolutely mauled by Bianchi.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of glad about that because I've become concerned recently that too many drivers are getting in there on a wink and a nudge, or the size of the money they bring to the table, and I understand why that is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 90s F1. Back then, teams could have a budget of 7 million for an entire year, and now 40 million is underspending.
Mm.
So I get it, but it makes me sad that, drivers that should be on the grid this year that aren't are Kovalainen,
Yep.
Kobayashi,
Yes.
and I would even say Alguersuari.
Yep.
I was also sad to see Timo Glock go.
Yeah, I was actually.
I'm
Even
not.
though I've got a funny suspicion that he's probably not really been trying nearly as much as what he could have done, maybe.
Yeah. Um. I mean, the thing is, he proved at Toyota that he's got capabilities.
Oh yeah.
Um. Something really embarrassing has just happened.
What have you done?
I completely forgot where the pit entry was, so I'm now mooching around the gravel trap.
Excellent.
And now I'm driving the wrong way, and I'm probably gonna get disqualified.
No, don't do that. Have you not got an exit back to pit lane? Or
No,
is that taken off because we're online?
yeah, it's taken off because we're online. But it's alright. I found the pit entrance. It's stupid because I was thinking we were at Malaysia, so I took the corner expecting it to be just after the corner, and it wasn't. It was on the corner. And then I found myself on the straight, and I was maybe 10% down the straight, and I just hit the brakes. I was like, this isn't right. Even if it was Malaysia, I would have gone past the pit entry at this point. But never mind. I think I've made my point. Then again, I thought that last time, and you picked me for pole.
Aww. Well, I was on for a relatively okay one until freaking Grosjean, and now Grosjean's going to bulk me again.
This is amazing. Our sector 1 times are identical.
Really?
Down to the 100th of a second, the 1000th of a second.
That's amazables.
Yeah, it is amazables. Exactly. We both did sector 1 in 26.255 seconds. I've never seen that happen before. That's quite impressive.
That is awesome for online people. Yeah.
And the time I've got over you is in 2 and 3, but I mean it's very close in sector 2. What happened to you in sector 1 there?
Yeah, I had a. Oh my god, I've got to avoid Grosjean. Oh look, there's some grass. Oh look, there's a barrier. I was doing a detour. I've screwed this up.
Hulkenberg is out.
Oh, was that because I smacked the back of him? Maybe.
I don't know. It just says he's in the pit, but he's not set a lap time.
Excellent. That must be my revenge.
We've gone back to business as usual, though, on the rest of the grid. We've got Alonso running 3rd, Hamilton, then Button from Massa, Raikkonen. The Red Bulls seem to be off in this season, don't they?
Good.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I know Red Bull have quite a fan base, but I'm not among them. Because for me, they're not a team.
I'm indifferent.
They're I know all teams are brands, but not all brands are teams. If that makes sense. And yeah. Red Bull's not a team. It's like you don't have to respect their success. It's a bit like I suppose Chelsea or Manchester City in football. Like if Man United win the Premiership, and sorry, I'm not a huge football fan, so if my analogies are out, mock me all you like. But if Manchester United win another Premiership, I know it's the same old, but you have a grudging respect for the fact they did it on merit, at least. I mean, I remember the 90s where he won stuff and everyone was saying, well, you can't win anything with kids. And he did. You've got to have a grudging respect for that, even if you don't like Manchester United. But, I mean, Chelsea and Manchester City bought their success. They didn't nurture a team. They just bought success. And that's exactly what Red Bull have done. They poached Adrian Newey. They're poaching staff up left and right and centre, up and down the pit lane. They got Vettel somehow. I mean, I don't know how long they've been backing him. And, it's... It just seems like they've progressed so quickly that it's obvious it's the money. It's not. I suppose it's wrong to say it's not talent, but it's a vague kind of talent, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I think in some ways Red Bull F1 does owe Red Bull a little bit because they are supporting 2 teams. And that puts you in another very difficult situation because what if Red Bull goes, actually, do you know what, I don't quite fancy F1 anymore? That's us down to 18 drivers. And then you think, how small does a grid get before it then becomes unimpressive? That's why I quite liked the fact that we was back up to 24 teams again, even if HRT were clinging on for dear life all the way. It was good to see 24 cars out on track, and I beg to differ on this whole, you've got Division 2 with the 3 teams at the back. It was still interesting for me because I love to see a full grid, and that was when I kind of went off of Champ Cars and Indy Cars, was when they were having like 16, 18 grids and car grids, and I just thought, it's not really impressive as much anymore. I don't know. There's something for me about the visual scope of F1 where I want to see a big grid. And
no, I want to see drivers develop. I want to follow their career, you know.
There's got to be seats to do that.
Yeah, you've got to have teams there to do it. And I like having the plucky underdogs going around at the back. For me, they really need to let in teams to replace HRT and replace the entry that USF1 lost.
Yes. I like to have a 26, especially if all of this cost-cutting stuff is coming in. I know the 3 teams came in under the guise of, you can run a team for 40 million. And
you can't.
And they've soon gone, oh God, you can't. But, I don't know, maybe, I don't think there is going to be a cheaper time for a little while if they're coming in for 2014. And there's talk of, who is it that was going to buy the old HRT parts and have a go? Was it the Russian lot?
Oh yeah, there was talk about it. There was also a Chinese team thinking of doing it.
Oh yes. Please.
Yeah, but I was always sad they never
Super Kamui GP.
Yeah, I was sad they didn't let Stefan GP race. You know, I mean, they turned up with cars, with mechanics. They shipped all the cargo over. They actually had everything ready to go, and they were just told, no, you can't compete. Even though USF1 was... I mean, to be honest, though, I don't see any circumstances under which USF1 would have been successful.
It's, because American is win or nothing mentality, and I don't think you can go into a sport like F1 like that.
I mean, the thing is, that's something I like about Americans. You know, they're very competitive, they're very driven, and it makes for entertaining sport, don't get me wrong, but I do think they struggle with innovation in the world of motorsport and cars in general. You know what I mean? Like their racing is very, on the technical side, I think it's quite sterile. It's cookie cutter cars generally. I mean, also the Indy cars they were running up until quite recently. If you look at a picture of those and a picture of a 1990 McLaren Honda, it's very hard to spot the difference. And you sort of think, I mean, that's essentially running a car that was almost 20 years out of date.
Yeah. They're more about it being the driver, though, as opposed to the team.
They are. But I also find oval racing very, very dull. But the car manufacturers seem to struggle to get horsepower out of smaller engines, and they just seem to lack a bit of the polish that the bigger Japanese manufacturers have, and the few European manufacturers that Solvent have. I mean, their cars have their own charm. I mean, everyone loves a Dodge Charger and the muscle cars, and they've got their own qualities, but I just don't think their F1 adventure would have gone particularly well. 14 seconds, when are you pitting?
Lap 5, I moved mine 4-1.
Oh, good man. Just while I was waffling.
Super Aguri would have been in the other team I'd have had back as well, by the way. And Jordan.
Yeah, definitely Jordan.
Super Aguri.
I did like Super Aguri.
You didn't?
I did.
Oh, okay.
But partly because they were basically a resurrected Arrows.
Yeah. For the whole purpose of giving Takuma Sato another go at F1. And they gave Yuji Ide a seat, and Sakon Yamamoto, who I still to this day say was underrated, because actually when he was not trying to qualify and was well off the pace, he was actually not too bad in the race conditions. But that's my little mini woot for him.
Yeah, I always think Japanese drivers get a bit of a raw deal, although Yuji Ide was comically bad.
Ide was terrible. Yes.
I mean, he got banned, didn't he? He got his super license revoked for being an incompetent buffoon.
Yes.
I don't know if that was actually the reason written on the petition, but I like to think it is. Banned for buffoonery. Man, I should replace Bernie Eccleston.
What would be the first rule that you would get rid of or change?
That's a very good question. It's a very good
Oh,
question.
I've put it in reverse. What did I do that for? I was going into a corner.
I've just seen you reversing up the the service road. It's quite an impressive manoeuvre. I mean, if you were doing a 70s cop show, you pretty much have sold yourself there.
Oh, this is terrible. I think you've got this one.
Well, I mean, steady on. It's only like one. I'll bin it at some point. I mean, the thing is, I'm genuinely surprised that things are as they are at this point in our little season here, because
I'm not.
You are, to my mind, certainly before we started, the better driver. I mean, certainly the more experienced driver. I don't know what's happened here. Maybe I suit the Sauber. Maybe I'm getting the setup right or something. But it's just.
If I can make the lamest excuse that this is actually the first time I've played the game on the PC, does that vaguely?
Because I mean, genuinely here, you should be better. I really expected you to be thrashing me, actually, because I mean, I know you ran the back marker brigade, but I mean, you weren't without your own successes, as I recall.
The occasional point here and there.
There were some good performances. My biggest regret.
Feel free to point them out to me some time, because I've got no bloody idea.
I mean, for me, I'm always sad that I didn't have the time to really dedicate to it that I wanted to. I mean, for me as well, I think it's something that has the ability to be genuinely entertaining. I mean, it always scares me that you get StarCraft 2 players earning hundreds of thousands, when really it's a dressed up version of rock, paper, scissors for all intents. There's only a certain amount of strategies you can actually do. And once you eliminate that your opponent has not done A or B, then you do C to counter it. And if you do that, then in most cases you've won. I mean, it's still entertaining to watch. I have watched a bit of StarCraft 2. Okay. But I sort of think that's had a level of success and sponsorship that sim racing should have had, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of moves in sim racing that I think they've got to be very careful with how sim racing goes in general, because now that I think a lot of people are waking up to the idea that sim racing is profitable, some companies are thinking, I'll have me some piece of that pie, and it's going to stop the whole community modding stuff is where I find that I think it's going to be the big watch of the future, because some mods are being blocked from coming out because they're like, oh, well, we can't have our name on that because that's disgraceful, and we would rather actually make some dosh out of it. And yeah, it's got to be very carefully watched, because otherwise the bigger the company that comes into it, the more likely I think sim racing will become narrowed down into some horrific iRacing snorefest wannabe.
I mean, the thing is, for anyone watching who doesn't know, essentially Simon and I met through the world of sim racing back in 2008, I believe.
Yes.
And I've always run a team rather than drive myself, and it was, as far as I'm aware, it was quite unusual at that time in particular, because there was no real management tools. You were essentially just painting the car and watching it go.
Which is quite a good job in itself still.
Yeah. And we worked together to a varying degree, and we moved on to another series at the end of the year, and then I moved on to another series yet again, which I believe where you're commentating now, Simon, GPVWC.
Yep.
And just to give them a cheeky plug, they're not paying for this, but that for me, I just did a press release for them actually. That, I mean, genuinely, they're the first series I've seen that is doing pretty much everything right. Because the problem, what always bothered me as a team owner, was that you could never draw competitive drivers away from established outfits. It just didn't happen. You constantly had drivers poached, and your only assets were your driver and yourself, right? So if you had the fastest driver, all the cars were equal. You know, it was just, to me, it killed a lot of the competition. You'd have the odd unusual result, but 9 times out of 10, it degraded into something of a procession at least. You know, you knew which team was probably going to come out on top. And even GPVWC suffered with that for a bit when we entered. I mean, the Nordstrom team were pretty much untouchable in my era. You've got to. I think it's really good what they've done now, though, that they're bringing in feeder series, and the teams now, because they're developing their cars and they're managing a budget. You can't just have the best driver because he wants to drive for you. You've got to have the funds to pay his contract, and the contract is set by the administration, so it creates a driver market. Puts a bit of liquidity in there, and I think that's a lot more entertaining. What do you reckon, though? Because you're actually watching a lot more of the competition than I am.
I love it because it brings out all of the management side of things that actually I think is missing from any other league out there whatsoever. So that a manager is actually has more of a clout over anything than managers anywhere else in sim racing, to be fair. And it reminds me of, if you've ever played those games where you're like, F1 time and things like that, where you have to manage the car and then you go off to a race and you're in a league of about 30 other people and stuff.
Yes, I do remember that, actually.
It reminds me of that slightly, because with that, no, yes, no.
Is that a yes or a no?
That was a yes. In the end of it, I lost the back end, but I managed to steer it out of the barrier because that's where it was exactly headed. That's a shame because I just knocked 2 seconds out of you then.
Yeah, my tyres have hit the cliff.
Awesome.
Thanks. Bastard.
Mwah. Big love. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, but no, sim racing, from a manager's point of view, for me, up until, well, when I first went into management, it was very much about just being a nice person. That sounds pretty lame, but it was about keeping everyone happy by making the atmosphere of a team happy and having some kind of personality so that you had some edge over something so that you could have a nice working atmosphere for everyone. And that was about as far as you could take it, beyond leveries, and maybe getting a couple of pennies in to see if you can treat the guys if they've done a good result.
Yeah.
And that would be it. Oh my god, that was terrible. And yeah, with things like GPVWC and any other leagues that do that kind of thing, you have so much more clout, as I've said. So yeah, big thumbs up.
Yeah, I like seeing the teams have an effect on the grid, because I saw Torrent Motorsports have entered now. I mean, the era when I started my team, in my mind, Torrent were pretty much the guys to beat, apart from Graziano Racing, which obviously we won't go into. And you know, they've shown up. They've got a really strong lineup, and on paper, you know, any other league they would have come in and been winning right off the bat. But because they've got an undeveloped car, and they have to play by the same rules as everyone else in that regard, you see that it sort of, to a certain degree, it levels the playing field.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that. I mean, I'd love to come back, but I don't want to make the same mistakes I have in the past, which is I've overcommitted and I've not had the time to deliver on what I planned to do. And, you know, I mean, my own team, I built it up twice to a point where I was really happy with the guys I had. And then, you know, you just end up letting them down because, you know, work comes up, or, you know, you're traveling or something comes up, and you're not there to keep the guiding hand on things, and people get fed up and frustrated and they move somewhere else. And
Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to let anybody down in that regard. Pit stop time. But the GPVWC presents a really attractive platform for me. I mean, I remember when we first entered, and I thought I'd pull off a bit of a coup, because if you remember Roy Wachmeister, or Bachmeister, however you pronounce him.
Wachmeister, yes, the Mister Man.
Yeah, he, to my mind, was one of the better drivers out there, and the fact that he came on board was really, really something of a coup. But because of being a new team and having no money, we couldn't make any sort of impact. And actually, the car proved to be hideously unreliable. Our first race, we lost both cars by lap 3.
That's quite impressive.
But I kind of accepted it, because I've always been a vocal proponent of that kind of thing. There's online gaming in general, and it's not just sim racing, has become very risk averse, and it's always been, we don't want random failures. Everything has to be purely on skill. I don't like the idea that my car might just blow up because of something out of my control. But it's not out of their control totally. It's in the control of their team. And if they've got a problem and they want the car develop a certain way, then they need to just vocalize it, and it creates a working team environment. But it also means you end up with teams having some bad luck. And like the drivers came away from that event really frustrated. In fact, the team pretty much dissolved 3 races later because of the problems we were having with the car. And as much as I sympathise with them and I appreciate how much time they put into driving for the team, I kind of enjoyed the show, and I felt we were contributing something. Even if you're the Tyrrell or the Minardi or the 40 of the sim racing grid, you should be proud that you're providing some sort of character. And and then you stylize the team around that. You start putting out the kind of press releases maybe that endear you to the community a bit more than the usual boring race reports from the successful teams, where we've won a race again, which it consists of, this guy won again, he's really talented again, we pitted on lap 19, nothing happened, now we have points. And I don't you think there's so many teams and drivers out there that are just unfortunately lacking the charisma, and fortunately GPVWC seems to be attracting the right kind of outfits at last, and it's so good to see.
Yes, I think, well, my team video launch, I was going to be doing today actually instead of doing this.
Oh, sorry.
No. This is equally awesome. But remember, that is the gear change. But yes, I think the reason why people like to see where Meep the Snail is at is because we've got a personality and we're having a giggle, and that makes all the difference compared to us and, I don't know, Team X.
It's a very diplomatic choice you've made there. I like being a bit controversial with these kinds of things.
No, because I do enjoy being part of the sim race community, and the longer I was away from being behind the wheel. I was never away from doing the commentary side of stuff. I've always been doing that, but it's I think, I don't know, maybe it's best to only have a couple of big characters like that, because there's only so many before everyone becomes a big character, and then it's actually like, oh, well, they're the people that don't talk, and then all of a sudden that's the good one.
Yeah. I mean, wow, you've really taken... These cold tyres are not doing me any favours at all. You are right up my jacksie.
I am indeed, and watch out, I might spear it.
And to tell you what, though, I get what you're saying, but what I've been concerned about, especially with around the time we left FSR, because they began imposing really big license fees.
Yeah.
it's the danger that these teams are starting to attract sort of big sponsors like Logitech and Cytec and the like, and you're going to take me on this corner. And
Yay!
oh, down the inside. Oh, and I've gone wide.
Oh,
Spun.
oh no! No! Come back!
You weren't happy, were you? You weren't happy.
Oh no!
It's all right. I think my tyres might start activating in the next lap or two, and maybe we'll have a close finish. But when they're attracting these sponsors, I think it's kind of like how in real F1 the manufacturers came in and ruined the privateer teams.
Mm.
Because when you've got a sponsor and you're able to give wheels away to drivers and cash to drivers, beyond a sort of a token thank you for driving for my team, I think kind of skews the playing field.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we've...
I think it creates perverse behaviour.
Yeah.
Like spending all night doing things and then finding ways to try and hack the system, or you ran wide on lap 27 out of turn 3 once, and therefore I think you've gained an advantage, disqualify him.
Yes, that happens so much. I remember, you might remember as well, because you were commentating and you were in cooperation with, our teams were cooperating at the time. I think it was the Belgian GP for FSR, and Marco Vandenbroek went out of sync with the rest of the server, so he couldn't see the cars around him. And
Hilarious.
He was like blocking everybody, and that was an awkward press release to write.
But then on my sim racing comeback for GPVWC last night, it was very interesting because about how you conduct yourself online as a person as well, because I appeared completely unwittingly to have caused quite a big accident on my debut, because it split into 2 races, and the first race was fine because there was already a massive collision in front of me. My big problem was that I forgot, I was told, although it doesn't look like many of the other drivers was doing it, that you have to use a clutch start, which means obviously you're quite slow off the line, but controlled. I appeared to let go of the clutch button and just caused myself a drive-through penalty, but in doing so still managed to hit the stationary car in front, which was quite clever for me. But apart from that, it was okay. Then race 2, I had everyone in front of me, and by looking at the broadcast, it looks like it was actually quite true that no one in front of me for about 4 rows decided to move from the line when the lights went off, and so I swerved to go round them because I thought, well, I can't just stop and wait because then everyone will plunder into the back of me. But what I didn't realise was someone else was coming up to my side, and I must have touched them, which sent them off into a spin, collecting a couple of other people. But I'm not protested or anything like that, because you hold your hands up, you say, well, this is what happened, I'm sorry if I caused any problems or anything like that. The minute that you become defensive about your online actions and almost start trolling in a way, is where people will then go and look for you for trouble and see what trouble you've caused elsewhere.
Well, one of the drivers got fired, didn't he, this week, I believe?
Yeah, and that's prime example of it, because, oh God, nearly ploughed into the back of Petrov there. Oh, DRS, hello. Yeah, because he is one of those people that draws attention in a negative light to himself. Whether or not he's a nice person or not doesn't matter anymore, because all he does is become the negative person on a negative party, and it makes it very difficult for you to then give sympathy or like or see the good in someone like that, because if all you ever hear is, oh my God, the world is against me, then it will become against you. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's very, very, very true. I mean, the gentleman in question, actually, I came close to signing him in 2011, and I thought better of it, because I took the time to actually read up on him a little bit. But it just goes to show that, all kinds of characters are out there, and it is important to conduct yourself with a certain level of decorum. I mean, I can sympathise with you because I raced on a league for this very game, actually. A few months back. It was my first ever competitive league, and had a really good start. Got from 10th up to 3rd, I believe. But apparently I caused a turn 1 incident, first of all. Oops. But in my defence, I had position. So when I braked and took the line that I felt I had to take to stay on the track, to my mind, anyone going into the back of me had responsibility for braking. But, I didn't argue. It was just my thought on the matter privately. But what did happen is, because I play in cockpit view, and I found that quite a lot of people don't online. So they couldn't understand my argument on this. But basically, I ended up bottom because I binned it into a wall. I go into the pits, and then a few laps later, a Mercedes has pitted, and it's just coming out of the pits as I'm coming down the straight. This is in Australia. And he's still behind the white line by the time I get to the end of the pit lane, and I take him on the outside, and off I go. And, I've gained the position. But I didn't hear and I didn't feel anything at all. But on a clip from his replay that he showed me, what happened was I'd come right across the front of him and taken his nose off.
Excellent.
But the thing is when you're in cockpit view, the mirrors don't work the best, I don't think. And I just had no idea what line he was taking. I was just desperate to not be last. But I learnt a lesson about sportsmanship, and since then I've consistently finished last in everything I've done, because you go into a corner with someone and it's like chicken. Is he going to blink first or am I? And then it usually ends up being me. It's kind of like an English gentleman getting into a train kind of thing. Oops, sorry. Oops, sorry. Pardon me. And, you end up backing off and letting them through. And it's hard to draw the line of what's aggressive and what isn't, because is me not backing off?
Rain.
Oh, bugger.
Only down at the hairpin.
Yeah, I've just driven into it, and the track's not wet or anything, but I was distracted by the pretty rain graphics. That I went wide, massively wide, and oh, you jerk! John-Eric Verne has just rammed into the side of me.
French. Naughty.
I don't think he's damaged me, but he's damaged himself. And I was gaining on you, and now I've dropped right back again. Yep, this one's in the bag for you.
I don't know, I'm coming up to Lap Hulkenberg. All he's done is cause us trouble all day.
He doesn't like the beta cast.
He doesn't.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell you in case it upset you, but...
Okay. Well, I don't like Brittany. Out my way, beaver. Yeah, oh well. Well, I feel like we've put the world to rights over these 3 races.
Yeah, well, you see, at the start of this, what I was doing was thinking, well, we should talk about what we're doing. But then I realised 15 laps of saying, oh, crap, I nearly lost it there. Oh, no, I nearly crashed there. Oh, I did crash. Probably losing its entertainment value. So I thought, rather than us recording a beta cast tomorrow, I'll just combine the 2. And then whoever watches your channel gets a beta cast for free.
Yay! And where can they go if they want to listen to the others?
That's a good question.
Is it betacast.eu, or is that down at the moment?
No, betacast.eu is up and alive, but I'll put it this way: we've done season 1, but then we've not had a chance to do very much recently. So I'm classing this as season 2.
Okay.
Like a second run, and we still need to figure out a schedule. But
yes.
Congratulations, Simon.
Congratulations, you.
I know. Second. Tell you what.
hugs and everything.
I'm 4 points clear of you in the drivers. So it's
You
getting
are.
close.
Bum bum bum.
It's getting close. Lewis Hamilton he must have been pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Holding on to the back.
Grosjean. Doing far better than real life.
Well, it's nice to see Sauber being successful.
Yeah, we like that. That. Cool.
Well, pleasure as always, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you ever so much for joining us for our wonderful pick through. I'm going to stick this up in 3 little slots, I think, so that each race has its own little video over the weekend. So look out for them.
Yeah, and at least I'll be more aware next time of where we'll be cutting and stuff. So maybe we can try and do an intro for each piece, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds all a bit exciting. A bit too difficult to do.
I'm not loving your enthusiastic dancing on top of your car there, Simon. I thought you were rubbing it in.
Well,
double finger guns. There's no need for that.
It's because I can sit there with a McLaren driving my contract for next year whilst you're going off to some dodgy old sports cars.
I'll be in American Le Mans before you know it.
Awesome. Oh, cool. Right.
We'll see you next time for Bahrain.
Yes. Take it easy, all.